Your station, 101 FM, with Saturday Sports Scene.
Good morning and welcome to Sports Scene for another week here. The 1st of June, we're almost halfway through the year already. Can you believe it? So much big sport has already happened and so much more to come. We'll take you through all of it here on Sports Scene. My name is Kevin Braysher. Joining me on the show, as always, the founding father of Sports Scene, Mr. Darren Madigan. Darren, welcome to Sports Scene.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another week of Sports Scene. And my goodness, I mean, you were just talking about halfway through the year. Normally this time of the year we're talking about how busy things are and the footy codes and everything like that. Just taking a look at sport around the world just briefly this week, it's just unbelievable. I mean, for the next week or so, we've got major national soccer matches. We've got a Grandstand tennis tournament, big golf tournaments. I mean, it is, and of course we've had all the big motor racing that's been going on as well. So if you're a couch potato, you've got plenty to enjoy sitting down for the next couple of weeks or so.
June, July is going to be massive, mate. Well, of course, the Lions tour kicks off. They arrive. They take on the Barbarians tonight, and then of course they take on the Western Force on Wednesday. That's when the tour starts against the Australian side. So massive few weeks coming up here in the sporting world, and we'll have it all for you here on Sports Scene. Also joining us this morning on Sports Scene from the QRL, Mr. Ethan James. Ethan, welcome to Sports Scene.
Yeah, morning, Kevin. The other big sporting event coming up in a few days. Nothing other than Origin. So yeah, plenty to get excited about, mate.
Absolutely, mate. It's the biggest 6 weeks of the year for league fans like you and I. And look, yeah, what did you make? First impressions on the Queensland side. What did you like the look of that side? It's pretty much by the numbers, isn't it? Yeah,
it is pretty predictable. But you know, when you've got seven series in a row under your belt and the players that they've got, there's predictable is the way to go. Yeah, but yeah, fullback rows on the bench. Probably an interesting call there, but I think we'll have a chat a bit about that later.
We most certainly will. That'll be at 8:30. We'll talk all things State of Origin. On the show today, Mark Beaumont, coach of the South Logan Magpies. He'll be back on the show. He'll be on the show at 8:15 to talk us through the Magpies. They're up in Rockhampton this week to take on the Central Queensland Capras. So he'll be on the phone to talk us through that. We've also got joining us in the second hour, Megan Rooney, former Firebird, current Golden South Jag. She'll be here. She'll be on the show with us to talk through netball. So make sure you're listening to that at 9:30. Also on the phone, Craig Crowley, Lee Hanatscheck, our regular panellists. They're both out on the road this week. Craig's off in the Northern Territory with the Southport Sharks for the NEFL game. He'll be on the phone at 9:05. We'll also have Lee Hanatscheck at 9:45 at 9:45. So that's Sports Scene for today. Make sure you stay with us, taking a look at results from overnight in NRL round 12. There is NRL going on, despite all the talk being about State of Origin, rightly so. The Bulldogs 16-14 over the Dragons there at ANZ Stadium, getting up there in a tight one. A bit of a controversial finish to that one too, as we heard in the news update. In the AFL round 10 last night, Collingwood 14-16-100 over the Brisbane Lions 7-9-51 at the Gabba. Ethan, you were there. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I was there. I ventured out to the Gabba. First ever AFL match I've been to, and the Lions, well, they didn't convert me to become a casual fan into a supporter last night by any means. I'm surprised the margin wasn't about 150, to be honest. But anyway.
Darren, look, they promised a lot at the start of the season, but it's been a tough AFL season for them so far, the Brisbane Lions.
It has, hasn't it? And please don't take that as an indication of our great national game. It wasn't a great example. Look, I just think you just mentioned controversy at the start. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to go a week without anything nasty or anything happening in either code? I think maybe I'm wishing too much, but I think it'd just be nice to go a week and just be able to talk about the brilliance of some of these people in the footy. Hats off, however, to Harry O'Brien, who played one of the best games last night, and given the week that he's had and a lot of people have had in the community, it was good to see him go up. But yeah, Brisbane were awful. They were quite awful, simple as that. And look, the word still remains, as far as the coach is concerned, Michael Voss, how long before he loses his job?
And it's sadly a question a lot of people have been asking for a couple of years, but we'll talk all the Aussie rules at the start of the second hour at 9:05. Make sure you're listening then. In the Super 15 last night, the Rams were round 16. The Brumbies, two Australian sides in action last night. The Brumbies up against the Hurricanes. The Brumbies got up 30-23 over the Hurricanes. The Waratahs went down in a heartbreaker 23-22 against the Crusaders. They led for most of that game. The Crusaders got up near the end, and then Berrick Barnes had a shot at goal after the siren to win the game and missed. So tough one there for the Waratahs. It'll be a bitter pill to swallow as they come home from New Zealand. Mate, as we talked about at the top of the show, Darren, big news overseas with the French Open, of course. What's the latest?
Yeah, halfway point of the French Open, the bottom half of the draw in both the men's and the women's are through to the round of 16. There aren't any real surprises as far as the men are concerned. Most of the seeds have gone through. Novak's through, Novak Djokovic. Interestingly enough, John Isner. Someone needs to tell John Isner, when you're playing in a Grandstand tournament, you don't have to play every game to 5 sets and be 8-6 in the 5th. For those who don't get the joke, John Isner was involved in the longest match in history at Wimbledon a couple of years ago, so he just seems to keep playing these long matches all the time. Rafa Nadal in 4 sets lost the first against Queensland, but he's through once again, so he's losing sets but he's winning matches, and he's been doing that most of the season so far. Nishikori, Stan Wawrinka, Davidenko, Richard Gasquet, all through into the third round. Into the round of 16, we have Tommy Robredo, David Ferrer, Joe Wilfried Songa, Gilles Simon, and Roger Federer will play against one another. I'm tipping that's going to be an absolute beauty. As far as the girls are concerned, Serena's through, as you would expect, in the round of 16. Svetlana Kuznetsova, Carla Suarez Navarro, Sarah Irani through, and still back having into the third round. You have Bartoli, two-time finalist Schiavone, Cornet, Azarenka, Kvitova, Jankovic. Of course, Sam is through. Now, Sam will play, Samantha Stoser will play Elena Jankovic. That's going to be a tough test at any time of Jankovic's career. And Zhang Zhui will play Maria Sharapova in that third round match as well, which should be another fairly decent sort of a match. As far as the golf is concerned, the men are playing the Memorial Tournament in Muirfield Village in Dublin, Ohio. Leading at the moment, Bill Huss. Best Australians, Matt Jones tied 15th, John Sendon tied for 25th, and Adam Scott and Jason Day quite a way down at the moment. So I think they're both at 1 over par for the tournament. As far as the girls are concerned, they're playing in Galloway in New Jersey. Amanda Blumhurst currently leading the tournament after first round, 66. And nice to see Michelle Wee back up there doing some decent things. Certainly hasn't fulfilled her promise that she had so many years ago, but sitting there tied for 4th at the moment. Kari Webb having a consistent season, currently 12th in the world rankings, tied for 10th. Lindsay Wright tied for 21st. And as far as the basketball and the NBA is concerned, we're nearly there. We nearly know who's going to be playing. San Antonio are through. Patrick Mills' San Antonio are through to the finals, the NBA finals. And currently the conference final between Miami and Indiana is 3-2 to Miami. And that is, of course, a best of 7 tournament there. So whoever gets through there will play San Antonio in the NBA finals. Kevin?
That's it. Miami's shown a little bit of vulnerability in the last couple of games, but they've got an absolute superstar in LeBron James who's got them home, but they've got such a good roster all around. They need to all start standing up and not leave it as a bit of a one-man team, as we've seen in the last couple of games. But that's the NBA Finals coming up shortly, the actual final series. If you want to get in contact with us here on Sports Scene through social media, we're everywhere. We're on facebook.com/sportscene, SportzScene. Also on youtube.com/sportscene, SportzScene. On the YouTube site, of course, you'll get podcasts of the show, replays of the show, and like last week, we got last week's interview with Des Morris is up there and things like that. So make sure you go and check us out. We're also on Twitter @SportsScene. So come and find us on social media. We're all over the place. We'll take a break now here on Sports Scene. After the break, we're going to have South Logan Magpies coach Mark Beaumont on the phone to talk us through their clash against the Central Queensland Capras. So stay with us.
Thomson Cooling is not only a cooling provider, you can also enjoy a cozy, warm and clean environment in your home with cost-efficient reverse cycle air conditioning. Our station sponsor, Thomson Cooling, will recommend the best Daikin reverse cycle air conditioning system for your home. Interest-free packages covering supply and installation are now available. Friendly advice, peace of mind, prompt response, quality product and service. Call today for a no-obligation free quote. Thomson Cooling, 1300 852 869.
Don't miss massive savings store-wide now at Overflow, Logan City Centre. Closing down south for renovations. 50% off all goods in store. That's half price while stocks last. That means for a $10 spend, you pay only $5. That means for a $20 spend, you pay only $10. Let's go Overflow. Closing down sale.
Welcome back to SportzScene here on 101 FM. It's 17 minutes past 8. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan and Ethan James all here with you, and joining us on the line, the coach of the South Logan Magpies Rugby League team, Mr. Mark Beaumont. Mark, welcome back to SportzScene.
Good morning, gentlemen. How you going?
Very good, thanks, mate. Thank you very much for being with us again this morning. We know you're at the airport on your way up to Rockhampton today, so we thank you for your time this morning. In the last couple of weeks, mate, since we last spoke to you, the Magpies, they had a very good win, a 1-point win over the Mackay Cutters, and a 9-point loss to Wynnum Manly last week. What's your opinion on the way the boys played over the last couple of weeks since we've last spoken?
Yeah, it probably hasn't been too bad. You know, again, we're just sort of struggling with that bit of consistency. So we played really well against Mackay and managed to scrape home. And last week, we led the game at various stages against Wynnum, and we weren't ahead at the end of the game when it matters, I suppose. So, overall, we've been travelling along okay, and obviously looking to get a victory today. So hopefully things will go our way.
That's it. Look, the last 2 weeks, mate, Mackay and Wynnum, two of the sides that many people assuming will be in the top 5 towards the end of the season. Perhaps a bit of a test for you guys. Where do you think you stand after playing two top sides like that in back-to-back weeks?
Yeah, it probably was a good indication of where we're at. We're probably still, like I said, we beat Mackay. We got beaten by Wynnum, and we're probably not too far off the mark, to be to compete with those top sides, But it was pleasing, but it certainly gives us, a good sort of focus on what we need to, work on to obviously to beat those top sides, come the back end of the year.
That's it. Mate, today, as we alluded to just before, you're heading up to Rockhampton. You're taking on the Central Queensland Capras. That's 6 p.m. tonight at Brown Park. And just a question for the listeners and for myself as well, mate. Talk us through the process of getting up when there's a long travel, a game like this, but against the Northern Pride or the Central Queensland side. What's the process for an Intrust Super Cup side travelling this long distance?
Yeah, well, normally, obviously, just due to costs and stuff like that, we don't have the luxury of the NRL sides that will travel a day before the game, so we have to actually travel the morning of the game. So, at the moment, obviously, all the boys are making their way to the airport. I think we're on about a 9:30 flight it is to Rocky. Then we land in Rocky, somewhere around 10:30, 11, I think it is. For us, we're off to an early lunch, at a club. And then in the afternoon, the boys just obviously, have a bit of a rest. Just obviously entertain themselves. Just try to, obviously the biggest problem is to try and simulate what they do normally on a game day if we're playing in Brisbane. So obviously to simulate that the best we can. So we don't really get them to do too much in the afternoon. It's up to them what they choose to do. And then obviously, our bus is at 4 o'clock, for a 6 o'clock game. So, then obviously away we go at 6. And then there's usually a bit of a function at clubs like that, obviously, because you travel away from Brisbane. So, after match function and home again tomorrow morning.
That's it. And just to be clear for everybody at home, these guys, they're not full-time professional footballers. So at times like this, some guys need to get time off work and other things. How does it work for them?
Yeah, definitely. And that's obviously we're starting with the Queensland Cup, but obviously it's scheduled, so everyone is well aware of when you're travelling. So it's not just sprung on you. So the guys who normally do pick up a bit of overtime on a Saturday morning or work on a Saturday morning, they need to obviously source that time off and make themselves available. So most of them obviously do that because obviously they get enough notice as the draw's brought out early in the year. So they know when we're travelling and when we're not.
Hey Mark, Ethan here, mate. Thanks for jumping on the show again.
It's all right.
Just a question on the travel again. I went up with East when they played Mackay up there, and we flew up early in the morning, and then they played at night. It's a really long day, and it's a long process. And by the time you get to the time the actual match kicks off, you can be sort of fatigued from the flight in the morning and everything else. How does that sort of impact your performance, and what do you have to do as a coach to sort of make sure the team's in the right frame?
It certainly does. It's that catch-22 situation where the guys obviously they're broken from their normal routine of what they do on a game day. And it can be a really sort of long day because they're possibly not up at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday normally. So that's why we sort of allow them to have plenty of rest in the afternoon. We sort of stress to the guys that it's not a school camp. So some guys might want to sleep. Their roommate might want to sleep. So we obviously just got to pay a little bit of respect to individuals and what they do to prepare themselves. And obviously it's up to the guys then to get themselves prepared. But from my point of view, it's as long as we sort of get to that 4 o'clock and everyone's obviously starts thinking about footy and preparing for the game ahead. That's all I can do. And we sort of use the motto, it's a long way to go to put in a bad performance. So, we obviously just try to, it's a long way to travel to play poor and get beaten. So, hopefully, we can get the guys up and they get a good performance up in Rocky tonight.
That's it, mate. Look, we'll talk about on-field stuff now with you. Your skipper, Phil Dennis, returns to the side this week. Tell us a little bit about what having your skipper back in the side means, and are there any other changes to the side this week?
There's obviously Phil comes back in. Like Phil had against the Mackay game, he just had a twinge in his hamstring. And he was touch and go to play last week, and probably in hindsight now that, we get beaten, he possibly, we should have played him, but, I didn't want to run the risk of losing him for, 4 to 6 weeks with a torn hamstring, then, missing one. So, Phil returns, and, obviously Phil is our most experienced player, and obviously being our leader, and he, obviously, the boys, they sort of lift the level when Phil, plays. So, obviously looking for his leadership ability and just his, obviously, control of the game. There was times there last week where we just probably lacked that little bit of experience and, experienced head in tight situations. So, Phil will bring that to us. Chris Faust, he's still out with a hamstring problem, so he won't play. And he's been replaced by a guy called Ben Falcone, who's it's only his second game for us. He was Manly full-time last year. He plays in the halves. So, obviously he come to our club the last couple of weeks, and he's been good for our depth. And my plan obviously is to move Phil back into the forwards and Ben to play 5'8". So we'll see how that goes tonight.
Yeah, another name I noticed in your team sheet for this weekend is a bloke by the name of Marshall Chalk, who's played about 80 NRL games for the Canberra Raiders back in the day. Whereabouts has he come from? Because he hasn't been there. He wasn't there at the start of the season.
Yeah, Chalky's played for the last. This is his 4th game back, I think. I just haven't been naming him, just trying to keep him under the radar.
Under the radar. Yeah, nicely done.
Yeah, Chalky obviously come to us. Our strength and conditioner trainer is a mate of Chalky's, and he come down a couple of times, Marshall, throughout the pre-season, and done a bit of defensive work with the guys. And I think just being that old footballer, he got itchy feet, and he sort of comes to me and said, I wouldn't mind playing. And so we've just gone through that process. And again, to get a guy with that experience, in our footy side is massive for us, and he's been really good for our guys. He probably is a little bit off finding his best form, but obviously he hasn't played for 18 months, so it'll take a few weeks for him to get his form back. But I'm sure towards the back end of the year he'll be really handy for us.
But what was behind his sort of decision to come back then?
I just think he must have just missed it. I think I suppose when he's been a professional footballer from an early age, and he was Canberra Raiders as well as the Titans, and he retired. He still was only 30, so he's not that old. He retired really young. So, I just think he wanted to, come back and do it again. And, obviously, we're a young bunch of guys, and I just think he felt he could really contribute with his experience to our young crew we got.
That's it, mate. The opposition, mate, I'll ask you about the Central Queensland Capras. What kind of threats do they pose to your side?
Oh, they're obviously, they're a side that, the travel aspect, as Ethan said before, they get you, they're really, obviously, a lot stronger at home than when they travel. They've got some really big forwards that they offload the footy a lot in around the ruck. So, our forwards are going to have to stand up and, sort of be accounted for. And, if we can win the middle of the field, with our tackle and our wrestle and, obviously carry the footy hard, like hopefully we can just put a bit of work into them and get some results off the back of that. But, we're certainly under, no disillusion. It'll be certainly tough up there tonight.
That's it. And finally, Matt, the last, I guess you sort of touched on it there, but the last thing I want to ask on that game, if there's one area of the game that's most important for this game in order for you guys to get the win, what is it?
Yeah, for us, it's obviously, it's obviously our defence up there. Like last week, in patches we were really good, and then we were really poor at times. We leaked, off to points at a couple of stages throughout the game. So, for us, we've done a bit of focus this week on our defence and just in our defensive patterns, and probably just put a bit of emphasis back on individuals that, it wasn't like, defensive patterns that let us down. It was just individual missed tackles, so. Our focus has been on, much better defensive effort. And, off the back of good defence, we can just complete our sets. We should work our way into the game and hopefully get a good result.
That's it. And, mate, finally, before we let you go, we've got to ask, everybody's talking about it in the league world this week. State of Origin, of course, on Wednesday. The team's announced they're in camp. How do you see it going down? What did you think of the announcements and all the rest of it?
Obviously, they're both two quality sides, but, obviously being a Queenslander through and through, support Queensland till the day I die. So
good answer.
But obviously, there's some really good good talent there. Throughout everyone. But obviously hoping for a Queensland victory on Wednesday night.
That's it, as we all are here on Sports Scene. Mark Beaumont, we'll let you go and get your flight and all the rest of it today. Hopefully it all goes smoothly and you can get up there and get a good performance and come home with a win. Mark Beaumont, thank you very much for being on the show this morning.
Thank you, boys. No problem.
No worries, mate. Thank you. We'll go to a break now here on Sports Scene. When we come back from the break, we'll talk through State of Origin and all the rest of the world of rugby league. Stay with us.
Do you have a street light that's not functioning correctly? Would like you to report it to them by calling 13 12 53 or completing an online form for faulty streetlights on their website at energex.com.au. Remember also that the council has to pay the running cost of all the streetlights, whether they're working or not. So let's get the most for our rateable dollar by reporting the streetlights not functioning to Energex on 13 12 53 or on their website energex.com.au.
Four-wheel driving on Fraser Island can be dangerous. Take sand driving seriously. Don't let your trip turn to tragedy. Slow down. Stick to the speed limit. In good conditions, 80 kilometres an hour on the beach and 30 on inland tracks. Slower is safer. Seatbelts save lives. Wear them. It's the law. Police patrol the beach anytime. Make your visit to Fraser fun, not fatal.
For the best musical memories from the 50s and the 60s.
Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more.
What you say? When I die and I lay me to rest, gonna go to the place that's the best. When I lay me down to die, going up to the Syrian sky.
It's Ted's Memories, Saturdays from 4 p.m. and only on 101 FM.
Play each machine seems to say as I walk round and round the penny arcade. Just ring the bell of the big bag of tub and you'll make
101 FM.
And now it's back to Saturday Sports Scene on 101 FM.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. It is 8:30 here on 101 FM, your station. You're listening to Sports Scene with Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan and Ethan James. We just wrapped up an interview with Mark Beaumont, coach of the South Logan Magpies. Very good of him to give us his time this morning. I didn't realise that they were sitting at the airport already this morning. So a big thank you to Mark Beaumont for that. And we wish them the best of luck tonight when they take on the Central Queensland Capras. We'll go through the Intrust Super Cup round 12 now, get some tips on that round. The first game of the weekend tonight, the Mackay Cutters up against the Ipswich Jets up there at Virgin Australia Stadium, 6 p.m. tonight. Ethan, who do you like, Mackay up against Ipswich?
Yeah, it should be a good match. Those two sides sort of towards the pointy end of the ladder. We saw a bit of Mackay last week against Burleigh. They won, but they conceded probably a fair few more tries than what they'd be happy with. The Jets, on the other hand, they're just so tenacious in defence at the moment.
They are,
and that's the real strength of their game. Mackay will need to pick up their defence and sort of combat that. So, I don't know, it's hard to call this one. Mackay at home, it's tough, as we spoke about with Mark, the travel there. So, I'm thinking they might just get home.
A few guys that were very strong and very dangerous last week against the Bears were guys Jason Tamalolo, Khalif Faifailoa, Clint Greenshields.
That's
all
right.
of them move up to the Cowboys this week. So, I tend to think Mackay are a bit vulnerable, even though they're at home. I lean towards the Jets in that one. The other one, we're talking about it with Mark Beaumont, the Central Queensland Capras up against the South Logan Magpies, Brown Park tonight, 6 p.m.
Yeah, well, obviously South Logan are fair and away up the ladder when you're looking at those two teams, and I think the way Mark was speaking there, he'll have his team sort of in the right frame of mind and the right preparation to come away with the win. Yeah, I'm liking South Logan there.
Even with the travel, you'd have to think they'll start favourites there. The TV game this week, the East Tigers up against the Northern Pride, Langlands Park tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Big game for the Tigers up against a very strong Northern Pride side. How's it going to go, Ethan?
Yeah, that's it. I'm feeling a bit of an upset in this one, Kev. Maybe
Unsurprisingly.
maybe I'm just a little bit blindly optimistic, but I reckon the Tigers, they've had the week off. They've had a chance to sort of regroup after bit of a patchy start to the year. The word is from the coach and the camp is that they've been training really hard over the past 2 weeks. The Pride, while they're obviously top of the table, they have sort of put in a few shaky performances on the road this year, and I'm thinking the Tigers can, well, hopefully anyway, jag an upset.
It's possible. I still tend to lead towards the Northern Pride in this one, but it'll be a good game tomorrow afternoon, 2 p.m. live on Channel 9. Then we got the Redcliffe Dolphins hosting the Burleigh Bears up at Dolphin Oval, 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, Redcliffe, well, as we're saying, they haven't really hit form at all so far this year. Of course, they've lost Luke Capel, went down a song with Penrith, and of course, guys like Dennis Kemp and Nick Sliney are both playing up in the NRL for the Bronx this week. They're always tough on their home turf, but I don't know. I reckon this one will be pretty close. What do you think? Look,
Burleigh's problem all year has been playing for 80 minutes. We saw it last week against Central Queensland. They could put the points on, but there was a 5-minute period before halftime where they let in 2 soft tries, and there was a 5-minute period before the end of the game where they let in 2 really soft tries. And in the end, that was the difference between the two sides. So the Bears know they can play football. Whether they can do it for 80 minutes, we don't know. Jamie Dowling, their 5'8", who's been playing some good footy the last few weeks, he's been called up. He'll be playing for the Titans this week. Tyler Chadburn then comes up into 6 from the Bycroft Cup. Look, it's must win. It's been must win for a long time with the Bears in this one, and they need to. I think you got to tip the Dolphins at home, but don't be surprised if the Bears come up with a sneaky upset. Final match of the round: the North Devils up against the Tweedhead Seagulls, Bishop Park tomorrow afternoon, 3 p.m.
Yeah, liking Norths in this one, although as is the case with a few other sides this round, with the Origin commitments, sort of draining the NRL clubs, it's sort of taken a few players away from the Intrust Super Cup as well. Guys like Scott Anderson and Jared Wallace, who would be sort of mainstays in that Devils pack, are playing up for Brisbane there in the NRL on Monday night. So they're missing a bit there in the forwards, but I still like the look of their pack. I mean, they've still got Brendan Gibb, Mark Value, Dan Beasley there at lock. So they're a tough seed, and Tweed are probably still a bit inconsistent just because they've got such a young squad. So I'm liking the Devils. Yeah, fingers crossed this game goes smoothly, because the second half of last week's game was delayed because there was a snake on the field down there at Piggabee. For those who saw that was some entertaining stuff. So fingers crossed, no snakes this week at Bishop Park. Keep an eye on Michael Burgess. He picked up man of the match last week. He was the Bycroft Cup Player of the Year last year. Very talented young player. Is he English or is he related to them? No, he's not related to the Burgess brothers. Yes. We'll take a look now at the Intrust Super Cup ladder heading into the 12th round. The Northern Pride on top, followed by the Ipswich Jets, Mackay Cutters, Wynnum Manly, South Logan. That's the top 5. We got the Tweed Seagulls, East Tigers, North Devils, Redcliffe Dolphins, Central Capras, Burleigh Bears, and Sunny Coast Seagulls rounding up the ladder. It's 35 minutes past 8 here on SportzScene on 101 FM. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, and Ethan James all here with you. Now it's time to talk my very favourite subject in the entire world, State of Origin. Game 1 only a few days away now, of course, on Wednesday night. Take a look first at the Queensland team. There's a 19-man squad at the moment, a couple of extra guys in camp. At fullback, Billy Slater. On the wings, Darius Boyd, Brent Tate. In the centres, Greg Inglis and Justin Hodges. What a great backline that is. And then Jonathan Thurston and Cooper Cronk, of course, in the halves. The front row, Matt Scott, Cam Smith, Dave Shillington. The back row, Nate Miles, Sam Thaiday, and Ash Harrison. On the bench, they've gone for 4 back rowers: Corey Parker, Matt Gillett, Ben Teo, and Chris McQueen, who will make his State of Origin debut. The 18th man is Daly Cherry Evans. The 19th man, Josh Papali. Cherry Evans, of course, in there in case Jonathan Thurston's wife expecting her baby to come this week. So if that happens, Cherry Evans is there to fill in case Thurston misses that match. Look, Ethan, just a couple of questions with the Queensland team. First thing that popped in my head when I saw it, no specialist prop on the bench. What sort of strategy is Queensland employing with 4 back rowers on the bench? Yeah, that's it. We sort of had a bit of a chat about it before we went to air. Yeah, of course, they're missing Hannett due to injury, so he's someone who would be there generally. And in terms of having 4 back rows on the bench, I think they've still got enough cover there in the props. If you look at the 2 guys starting in the back row, Miles and Thaiday, they've both been almost exclusively playing prop at NRL level for their respective clubs, so they can quite easily slot forward. And in terms of counteracting what New South Wales will throw at Queensland, New South Wales have got a very sort of mobile, agile pack, and I think having those back rowers will sort of give Queensland sort of the foot speed and the ability to sort of counteract that and defend against that. Yeah, do you think it is a reaction? The last couple of years, perhaps there's been New South Wales have certainly made some inroads with the mobility of their forward pack. Is this a reaction to that? I think it is, but I think it's also Queensland's strength as well, because they probably don't have the quality of prop without Hannett and Sivanasiva retiring. to sort of, to pick a prop on the bench. And the fullback roles that they have picked have all been playing, sensational footy. So I think they'll do a very good job. And yeah, they've got those two guys in the back row starting who can push forward. So I think they're fairly well balanced.
Yeah, that's it. Darren Madigan, I'll come to you now, mate. North Queensland's favourite son, Jonathan Thurston, plays his 25th consecutive State of Origin game. Fingers crossed that the baby doesn't stop him from playing Origin for all us Queensland supporters' sake. That's an all-time record. He goes past Gary Larson. What an achievement to play 25 consecutive State of Origins from Jonathan Thurston.
It is, isn't it? And there's been a couple of moments there where he wasn't going to. We've had some fairly bad injuries, including a knee injury, I think, which happened. It might have happened just after the
just after 2011.
Yeah, just after the series, and he managed to be right for the following year. So we were all very, very happy about that. I'm not sure. Is he going to come back? Wasn't there something a week or two ago about him being given permission to stay to play?
To stay? Oh, with the baby?
Yeah.
Well, wait and see. You don't know for sure what will happen until it actually happens. But Clive Palmer has offered to give him his private jet if it does come, so we can go there and back. Did you see that during the week, Darren?
I didn't see that because Clive's been in the news a bit this week, but for other reasons. Hello, Mr. Daly. But it's look, that's great. I mean, if obviously with Clive Palmer's involvement in Townsville with the nickel refinery and everything up here, it's a great move as well. But I'm just wondering, with that many backs on the bench, does that an indication of how we're expecting Queensland to play? I mean, obviously not relying so much on punching it up through the middle, but throwing the ball out wide a bit more?
Well, that's it. Maybe there's a bit of an evolution in the way Queensland play. With over the last 7 years, there's been the four prop rotation with Shillington, Scott, Hannett, and Petros, Sivanasiva. It's been about bashing up through the middle, making the meters that way. Obviously they're going to have to play a different way with less props on the bench this time with mobility. Another question with it that I thought through the week with guys Matt Gillett, Ben Teo, Chris McQueen can all cover the outside backs. Will we see a guy, say Chris McQueen, I think he's probably the best in terms of playing outside back role out of those guys. Could we see a Chris McQueen move to left centre and then see Greg Inglis attack through the middle, Ethan James?
I think that could be a sneaky tactic there from Queensland. We had Desi Morris, of course, on the program last week, and we asked him about how Mal was going to get Inglis into the game and how he potentially would play him outside of that pure centre role. And he dropped a few hints maybe, and we've seen a few hints from a few players in some interviews throughout the week. And I think Queensland are pretty keen, just because Inglis has been going so well at fullback for South, that they're pretty keen to get him running through the middle, playing off the playmakers up the middle, and using his size and strength there as well. So I think that could be a potential way to go. Bringing on Chris McQueen and having him sort of play it here and there in the centres a bit, and then having Inglis attack at times, through the middle there off guys like Cameron Smith and Cronk and all that, because their combinations.
Can you imagine the headaches that would cause giving Cameron Smith the option of going to Billy Slater or Greg Inglis through the middle?
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that we haven't really seen in terms of playing with essentially sort of two attacking fullbacks there at Origin level. So it could be something interesting if they do go that way.
In theory, it sounds great like that, but in practice, who knows? It might be a little complicated. Darren, you were going to say something?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that's something that does worry me a little bit. I think we're at our best when we keep things relatively simple and let the guys who are good at expressing themselves on the field do exactly that, and just keep the actual gameplay relatively simple. And I'm just, as you've just pointed out, I mean, if Cam Smith's got to go one way or the other, and the same thing goes for Thurston as well. I mean, what do you do? I mean,
sorry.
Yeah, I'm just worried that there's going to be too many options, and we could see, because let's face it, the last few years there have been a number of really close games of football. So it only takes one or two mistakes, and you've lost the match.
And at the same time, look, Greg Inglis is all-time leading try scorer in State of Origin, playing on that left edge, and the centres are on the wing there. So, we're not going to lose anything by leaving him there. It's just with how good he's been playing, a lot of people think there's a way to move him into the middle. But I have total faith in Mal Meninga and that coaching staff to come up with the right game plan to use everybody suitably. I've got total trust in it, and I've got total trust in the guys on the field, Cameron Smith, Jonathan Thurston, Cooper Cronk, these guys to make the right choices if they're in front of them. So
you forgot your man crush.
Sorry, mate?
You forgot your man crush.
No, I didn't.
Look,
we'll go to keys for victory for the Queensland team, mate. For my thinking, of course, with the mobility, Queensland counteracting that, to see the way they rotate the back rows will be a big thing. We talked about that. the big thing, I think, over the last few years that's been great for Queensland is the kicking game of guys like Cooper Cronk, Cameron Smith, Jonathan Thurston. How important is that going to be again this year?
Yeah, for sure. It's all about, it's pretty cliche, but it's all about building pressure in games like this. And when you've got guys like Cam Smith and Thurston and Cronk, who are probably the best in the business when it comes to kicking game, really able to force repeat sets and then build off that. But just in regards to the tactics there, I think perhaps last year Queensland, I think for the first time to my eyes anyway, they sort of in some aspects looked a little bit stale in their play.
Yeah, fair.
So I think in terms of maybe bringing in some different tactics and playing players in slightly different positions in terms of Inglis, I think it might sort of refresh the side a bit as well. So I think that could be a real positive if they do go that way.
No, I think that's a fair call. Look, we've won 7 in a row, but in order to keep winning, there's got to be some sort of evolution in the side.
Yeah, exactly
right. Well, we'll leave the Queensland side there for the moment. Of course, they will start favourites going into this one, although New South Wales tend to firm going into the second week of the preparation for some reason every year. But Queensland deserve to start favourites after 7 straight series wins. We'll look at the New South Wales team now. It's a very good New South Wales team, I must say. 1-17. Jared Hayne will be the fullback. On the wings, Brett Morris and Blake Ferguson, who was on debut. In the centres, Michael Jennings, Josh Morris. At 5'8", on debut again, James Maloney. Halfback is Mitchell Pearce. Front row, Paul Gallen, who was the captain. Robbie Farah, James Tarmo. In the back row, Ryan Hoffman, Luke Lewis, Greg Bird. On the bench, 2 debutants in Andrew Fafita, who I'm excited to see go around. He's been exceptional this year. And Josh Reynolds also gets a debut on the bench, along with Trent Merrin, Anthony Watmo, that's 17. John Sutton is the 18th man in camp. Any guys jump out at you there in that lineup, Ethan?
In terms of being dangerous, or in terms of...
Yeah, in terms of being dangerous, or guys you're excited to see run around.
Yeah, well, I think you mentioned it. Yeah, but Andrew Fafita has absolutely been killing it for the season, really. Yeah. Some of the stats he's been getting and some of the meters he makes is just unbelievable. And if they can get that sort of stuff out of him at Origin level, he's a real danger. But yeah, I think they've got a lot of strike across the paddock, even in the forwards. Guys like Greg Bird and all that are really dangerous players. But yeah. Yeah, there's a few questionable selections as well, perhaps.
Well, I mean, James Maloney, 5'8" on debut. New South Wales, it's a stat that's been going around the last couple of weeks. They haven't never won a game with a 5'8" on debut. Todd Carney has been playing some pretty good football the last few weeks at the Sharks. He was the incumbent. He's played a lot of football with Mitchell Pearce before. The reasoning to have James Maloney ahead of him, Ethan?
Well, they've tried to justify it which to me is a strange sort of way. They've tried to justify Maloney's selection by saying that he's a calming influence on Mitch Pearce. Now, if you're picking someone because he's that's your number one reason, I think you're in a bit of trouble. And the fact is, New South Wales have shuffled their halves around like, deck chairs on the Titanic for the past few seasons. So, nice, not bad. But yeah, in terms of that, I think Carney it was ridiculously harsh to drop Carney. I mean, he's the incumbent. He played all 3 games last year. He's been getting better. He got better with each match. And that's been their Achilles heel. I think New South Wales have been too quick to change their side, and it's been to their own detriment.
Particularly at number 6 has been the main spot where they've changed a lot around. Yeah, I tend to agree. Look, James Maloney, take nothing away from him. He's been terrific this year. But like you say, Todd Carney did nothing wrong and probably deserves to feel unlucky to miss out on the side. Along with Tim Grant's another guy I think probably deserves to feel unlucky to miss out on the side after being quite good for him last year, and his stats stack up well again this year as well. But just with James Maloney, mate, another point they made was with the goal kicking, and to me, Todd Carney is a terrific goal kicker as well. So yeah, it's a strange one. And Todd Carney, the only way for him to react is go out and play good football for the Sharks. He was very good last weekend. He's just got to keep chipping away and keep playing good footy and see if he can force his way back into that side. Is this series Mitchell Pearce's last chance, New South Wales? If New South Wales don't win this series will we see Adam Reynolds be the 7 from next year on?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a bit of pressure on him, of course. Yeah, with a few halves candidates coming through, but I don't know. They seem to have stamped him as the halfback for a long time. So I don't know how long he's got or how long they're going to keep picking him for. But
you'd have to think Adam Reynolds is breathing down his neck.
Yeah, for sure.
They've shown a lot of faith and invested a lot in Mitchell Pearce. I think this is it. If they win the series this year, he'll stay. If they don't win the series this year, I think Adam Reynolds comes in next year. Well, time will tell with that one. In terms of the New South Wales number 7, and it leads to the keys for victory for New South Wales. I feel over the last 7 years, Queensland has, in the big moments, the big players have made the big plays. And that means guys, Cooper Cronk kicking that field goal last year, guys like Cameron Smith and Jonathan Thurston coming up with the big play when needed, and Billy Slater and Greg Inglis. To my mind, New South Wales need to match them in those key positions, which means the 6 and the 7, Robbie Farah at 9. What do you think? I feel in those big moments, those those key players need to stand up for New South Wales if they're going to win the series, because they've got plenty to match us every other area.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And of course, that comes down to, experience and everything like that. And that's why perhaps they should have, stuck with Carney there at 5, because he does have that Origin experience and he'd be more aware of the demands of Origin and when to produce the plays and when not to, go for the Hail Mary sort of pass and that sort of thing. But I think New South Wales they have had for a while. I think they've got a really dangerous side across the paddock. You look through their team and there's a lot of guys who have really good footwork and have really quick speed and all that sort of stuff as well. So I think they're a very dangerous side. But yeah, as you said, it comes down to those big moments, because they've quite often been in positions where they've been leading the match towards the end and they've been in the real position to win. But then Queensland has something out of
Billy Slater will score a late try, or Cooper Cronk will kick a field goal. Jonathan Thurston will make a break. That's what I mean. The big players and the big moments at the late stages in these big games. Queensland have got so many of them that have done the job so many times before. New South Wales need to find the confidence to do that, because, in my opinion, it's probably the best looking New South Wales side they've put out in a long time. It's a very strong side. So we're really looking forward to Game 1 down there at ANZ Stadium in Sydney. It'll be an absolute cracker Wednesday night. Cannot wait for it. We'll take a break here on Sports Scene and leave the rugby league there for now. We'll, of course, talk about that in Origin in more depth in more weeks to come. But when we come back from the break, the Lions tour, the rugby, the British and Irish Lions, they'll be here very, very shortly, and we'll talk you through all of that. Also some local news in the world's basketball scene.
Meet your friends and relax over tea or coffee in a friendly atmosphere at Central Perth, 390 Kingston Road. Central Perth opens from 7 a.m. Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. Saturday. Support a 60-kilometre walk for cancer on Saturday, June the 1st, when Central Perth will donate $1 for each tea or coffee sold from 2 p.m. Bring a chair and support a great cause at our sponsor, Central Perth, next to Aldi, 390 Kingston Road. Like them on Facebook and receive a free coffee. Call Kim for details on 3299 3390.
Life. Life is for living. So live it. Life. Life is for giving. So give it. Giving blood is cool. Needing it isn't. Red Cross. Give a little. Life is for living. Life is for giving. Help save lives. Please give blood.
Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm he had a chicken, E-I-E-I-O.
The farms where most of our egg products come from aren't what they used to be. Across Australia, 11 million hens are still confined to the misery of battery cages. Please, don't buy into cruelty. Help Animals Australia put an end to factory farming.
Be a voice for animals at animalsaustralia.org.
101 FM.
You're listening to Saturday Sports Scene on 101 FM.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. It is 10 minutes to 9 here on your local station. The fresh news update coming up at the top of the hour. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Ethan James, all here with you. Darren, before we move on to the British and Irish Lions tour, there's a little bit of soccer to go through.
Indeed there is. Yeah, there's obviously with the National Premier League at the moment for those who aren't aware, the FFA have put together this competition called the National Premier League. This year's in transition. You've got the various conferences, which is really just the states, and though not all states are involved in it this year. And come next year, I think they're looking at some form of cup competition, which should be very exciting. But obviously, once we have more details on that, we'll bring it to you. We've reached the halfway stage of the season. They're on a break at the moment, but there is a catch-up round, a catch-up game, and that's going to be Moreton Bay United Jets, currently 6th on the ladder, playing the Brisbane City. Now, that game will be played tomorrow at 5 p.m. at Walter Park, W-O-L-T-E-R. And currently, the ladder at the moment sees Olympic leading on 31 points from Brisbane Strikers and Brisbane City, Redlands United, Sunshine Coast Fire, Moreton Bay Jets, Northern Fury, the Palm Beach Sharks from the Gold Coast, Western Pride, the Far North Queensland Football Club, and CQ and the QA QAS as well, the Queensland Academy of Sport. If you're watching some telly tomorrow morning, you get to see, I know I've been on the Bayern Munich bandwagon all year, but they're pretty much set to wrap up everything that they've been able to play for this year and win the German Cup tomorrow morning on SBS as well. We should also mention that we do have the Socceroos playing. It starts next week. We've got 5 games. We're talking World Cup qualification matches here. The first one next week is away in Japan, and I'm just taking a look at some dates here. We're looking at next Tuesday, I believe it is, at 7:30, and that will be shown live on free-to-air television on SBS as well. We need to get through. Japan are pretty much all through already. They're on 13 points. Jordan are sitting on 7 points, and we are sitting on 6 with Oman. So we are smack bang in the middle, near the bottom, equal points as well. So we have to win matches. That's the bottom line. We have to win the next 2 to 3 matches to make the World Cup.
That's it. High pressure situation for the Socceroos. Hopefully they can come through for us back home in Australia. We move now. The British and Irish Lions tour. Once every 12 years they come to Australia. It's a massive, massive event. It all gets underway tonight. The Barbarians take on the British Irish Lions. First match of the tour. It's over in Hong Kong. But they arrive on Australian shores to play the Western Force on Wednesday, the 5th of June this week. That'll be over there at Patterson Stadium. The rest of the schedule for them, they take on the Reds on the 8th of June next Saturday. Then the following Tuesday, the 11th of June, they take on a combined New South Wales and Queensland country team. Then they take on the Waratahs on the following Saturday. Then they got the ACT Brumbies on the Tuesday. Then the first test gets underway there on the 22nd of June, and then they play the 3 tests every Saturday there for the next 3 weeks. They also take on the Melbourne Rebels there on the 25th of June as well, in the middle of that test tour. Darren, it's one of the last tours of this in this sense of the word left in the world of professional sport, where they don't just come and play the test matches. They come, they play everybody, they tour the country, they're here for 6 weeks or so. It's such a special event. It's really sort of one of a kind, particularly in the world of rugby and the rugby codes.
Yeah, well pointed out. It really is. We don't really see it much in cricket anymore, do we? I mean, teams just turn up into a country and they're virtually into their first match. But I must admit, I'm almost as excited about this as I am, that first hint of spring when the footy finals start. I mean, this is massive. I mean, we've been going on about it all year, but we can't stress strongly enough. It's once every 12 years. It's the next biggest thing there is outside of a World Cup, and I don't think that's too crazy to say. I mean, the British and Irish Lions, they're a huge side. They're made up of the 15 Welsh players, 10 Irish, 9 English and 3 Scottish players, and it pretty much reflects how the Six Nations went this year, with Wales losing just the one match, the very first match that they played against the Irish. So, yeah, I mean, coming up against the Aussies, this is always massive. Hopefully this time round, ticket sales have been a bit more cleverly done than last time, because last time we had, I think, the Australians running out at the Gabba, because I think Suncorp was under rebuilding at the time. And we had our players running out into a sea of red in the stands, because that's the way the ticket sales went. Yeah. So we haven't heard anything so far on how that's going. But believe you me, if anything like that happens again, it will be a point of contention. It'll be straight into the media.
There has been a campaign of get rid of the red, or I'm not sure exactly what the words are for it, but there has been a campaign to get more Australian jumpers out in the crowd compared to Lions jumpers, because you're right, particularly in that game at the Gabba, if you just look back at the footage, there's red everywhere, and it almost looked like a home game for the Lions in that one. So hopefully more Australians get out there, mate. Are there any particular players in this Lions squad of 37 that you're really looking forward to seeing come down and play in Australia?
Well, obviously getting to see people like Driscoll and that again. I mean, the chances of seeing them towards the ends of their career is you don't get to see them as much as you would like to, unless you're watching on television with the Six Nations and that. But people like Driscoll, some of the older players who have put on some great performances down through the years, I'm really looking forward to seeing how these Welsh players actually come together against Australia, because I think it'll be a good indication of the next time we play Wales, actually. But because it was 15 of them in the squad and 10 Irish, so it's a massive amount. In years gone past, we've seen the English dominate in such a way with a lot of these selections. But this time round, it's a completely different British and Irish Lions too. So for me, I'm really looking forward to seeing Driscoll play, and some of their halves that they've decided to replace. We've seen Jonathan Wilkinson has decided not to tour this time round. He's going to stay with Toulon, and we were saying before the show, I think he's decided he just wants to concentrate on his club rugby. He doesn't think his body will stand up to it. I'm just gobsmacked at that. I cannot believe anybody would turn down the opportunity to tour in such a prestigious side, Kevin.
Well, basically what he said is that it's a week-to-week proposition with him, with his fitness these days, and that he doesn't feel his body could handle the tour across to Australia. And I guess only he can answer that question. But it's like you say, mate, it's such a special thing to be involved in the Lions tour. It's hard to imagine them turning it down, but you don't know unless you're in his situation. Look, he's been in great form. He's the European Player of the Year. It was named a couple of weeks ago. He's been terrific. He's certainly good enough to be there, but his decision is that he won't be there. You talked about Brian O'Driscoll just before. He's one of my all-time favourite players, the Irish outside centre, arguably probably the best centre of this generation, in my opinion, at least, in many people's opinion. He's a guy, he's won Heineken Cups, he's won Grand Slams with Ireland, he's won Six Nations. He's never won a Rugby World Cup, or he's never been part of a winning Lions tour. Look, he'll be busting a gut to make sure that doesn't happen again. He wants to get that win this time here in Australia, and I can't wait to see him go around. Hopefully get some game time. He's 34 years of age, still one of my all-time favourite players, but it'd be great to see him go around. A couple of other guys that are really exciting, guys from that Welsh side, as you mentioned. Mike Phillips, that scrum half. Mike Phillips, the scrum half, was unbelievable in the Rugby World Cup a few years ago. I'm really excited to see him go around. And the skipper, the open side flanker, Sam Warburton, he's one of those guys who's just been terrific. Form hasn't been especially brilliant over the last little bit, but he'll be at his best, I'm sure, for this Lions tour. We've all seen how good he can be, and those two guys in particular I'm really looking forward to. A couple of big wingers they got as well, with North and Cuthbert. Both of them up close to 2 metres tall, massive guys. They'll be a real handful for our guys out on the wings. So plenty of talent in that Lions squad, and just really looking forward to seeing them go around. It's going to be an awesome tour. Of course, it kicks off tonight against the Barbarians, and see how they go against all the Australian sides too. But those guys in particular that I mentioned, O'Driscoll, Phillips, Warburton, the guys I'm really looking forward to seeing.
I think too, being of Irish heritage, I mean, they're my second team after Australia. I mean, obviously I want to see Australia beat everybody, but the Irish really know how to turn it on when they're on. And guys like Paul O'Connell, he's 33 years of age at lock, and he plays for that iconic team Munster, who are just, if there's ever a team that's been known as giant killers down through the years, it's Munster. I mean, they've beaten the All Blacks, they've beaten the Aussies down through the years on tour matches, and it's just, some of these teams like that are looking for. Tom Croft from England, from Leicester Tigers, the flanker, he's aged 27, and so some of these older players, this is the last time we will see them. Yeah. And some of them, it may be the last time we see them even in representative football. So really, really looking forward to seeing this. And as I said, I'm as excited about this as I am at the start of the final series. I think this is great.
That's it. Massive Lions tour coming up in the weeks ahead. We will have it all for you here on SportsScene. And coming weeks, we'll look at the Australian team, all the rest of it. We'll go to the news now. When we come back, we'll have Craig Crowley on the phone to talk through Aussie rules. 101 FM, your station. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Ethan James, all here with you. Joining us on the line to talk through all the world of Aussie rules football, Mr. Craig Crowley, AFL Queensland Hall of Famer, Southport Sharks. Craig, welcome to the show.
G'day, mate. How are you?
Very good, mate. Thanks for joining us again here on SportsScene. You're on the road this week. The Sharks, you're taking on the NT Thunder, which means you're over there in Darwin.
Yes, mate. I'm kicking back beside the pool. Ridges Hotel, not a cloud in the sky, probably 23 degrees. I don't think I'll even get to the footy.
It's all comfy there over there, mate. It's a bit overcast here, but at least it's nice where you are at the moment. As I was saying before, that we were talking to Mark Beaumont at the top of the show, of course, the coach of the South Logan Magpies. They're travelling up to Rockhampton today. We talked about the process for them getting up there. You guys, of course, a similar type of competition with the semi-pro players and the rest of it. Tell us, what's the travel process like for you guys in your competition, getting up to games, getting across to a game like over in Darwin?
Well, a lot of it depends on what time we actually play. Today we're playing the curtain raiser to the Bulldogs Port Adelaide game. And we're starting at 3 o'clock, so we've got the ability to sort of travel pretty late last night. We got in at 1:30, and we probably bedded down. By the time we bedded down, it was probably 2 o'clock, so it sort of sounds late, but we've got our own time at the moment, and we can sort of relax and have breakfast and do everything we need to prior to the game, and sort of because it is there's only a minimal amount of flights come in and out of Darwin. We're we're leaving about 3 o'clock tonight, so it's all tomorrow morning. So it makes it pretty arduous, but at the end of the day, you're in and out to do the job, hopefully, and that's what we're probably trying to do. We have stayed here before a day over, and sometimes it's been here too early, and you have too much downtime, so we're sort of probably getting in there and getting out pretty quick.
So, Darren, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, I didn't know there were 3 o'clock domestic flights. I've learned something new today.
Yeah, I think it's about that. There is one over in WA. We always know about the old red eye. So look, it's the only time, because there isn't. As we came in last night, there was a lot of passengers ready to go, and the whole terminal was full. So there must have been a couple of flights going out about that time.
Mate, just on your game last week, you guys kicked 922. Mate, what was the story? Was the ground in terrible nick, or was it just one of those days?
Look, to be honest with you, it was. It had I would suggest close to a 6-goal breeze.
Yep.
And we sort of really hit the inside 50 pretty hard in the first couple of minutes, and the Lions just got all their players behind the ball. They played, I think, only 14 listed players, so they had 4 young ones on the ground, so they took it upon themselves to get the people behind the ball. No excuses. We had about 4 or 5 set shots that we should have converted, but a lot of them were rushed in the 11 points we kicked in the first quarter, and that sort of set the pattern for the rest of the day. And, I know bad kicking is bad football, but we convert 2 or 3 of them goals. I know things change differently, because you go back to the middle of the ground and we have a restart. But, we were 5 goals up at 3/4 time. That would have put us 5 goals up at 3/4 time. That would have put us 8 goals up at 3/4 time. That probably would have broke their spirit.
Yeah.
But fortunately, we didn't do that, and it gave them an opportunity. They just opened us up in the last quarter, kick 9 and win by a couple.
That's it, mate. Look, you're taking on the NT Thunder this afternoon, 3:30 p.m. at TIO Stadium, coming off a loss from last week. The NT Thunder, they've been a real force the last few years. This year they find themselves in about the middle of the ladder, sitting in 6th place at the moment. How do you see this game going down? What do you think of the way NT Thunder have been playing and the threats they pose to your side?
Well, they've got some talented footballers, there's no doubt. They have lost a lot. They've got the likes of Austin Wanamiri, who's an ex-AFL footballer. There's Cameron Islet, who's their skipper, who's also the state captain at the moment in the wake of Danny Wise not playing a couple of weeks ago. And, they're Indigenous kids. They're just unbelievable. They're quick. They're unpredictable. You really don't know what you're going to get from day to day with these guys, but they have been beaten twice up here at TIO Stadium, which hasn't happened before, and they've been beaten twice this year, once by Broadbeach and once by Morningside. So, look, it's not something they take to. It is a bit of a fortress up here, and we've got to treat it as such. So we've got to be on our guard, otherwise they'll get under our guard. So we're not taking them lightly by any stretch of the imagination, but they're a team that you just don't underestimate.
That's it. Look, we'll go through the rest of the round 11 in the NEAFL this week. The Sydney Uni side up against the Labrador. That's at midday today down there in Sydney at Drummoyne.
Yeah, look, probably 2 sides that aren't as strong as what they'd like to be, but, that means, it's going to be a good competition, and that's the most important thing there, even in the game. Labrador have got some really good footballers in their group, and, the travelling side of it's always hard, but we're just hoping that Labrador comes through. I'll give them a bit of a chance.
That's it. We got the two AFL reserve sides there, the Brisbane Lions up against the Gold Coast Suns, 1:30 p.m. today at Cooperoo.
Yeah, as I alluded to off there, the Lions, as you can see last night, were a bit decimated by injuries. Some key players being injured, and hence a lot of the players had to go up. So it left them a little bit naked in the way of their reserve grade. And I think the Suns are at full capacity. So I think it's going to be a really hard ask for the Lions to be at their best. Obviously, having a lot more top-up play makes it pretty hard. So I reckon the Suns pretty comfortable. The
Lions, they haven't lost a game so far this year, but you're still tipping that the Suns will get up on them?
Well, we always speak about it from time to time about, what the teams dish up and how they're resting players, if they've got injured players, and so on and so forth. Because of the nature of only being able to play 15 and 3, which means 15 players on the ground and 3 on the bench. And if they have some losses in them, they have to top it up with younger guys. So and that's what's actually happened with the Lions. So they've got a few injuries, so that makes it a little bit difficult.
That's it. Morningside up against Aspley this afternoon, 1:30pm at Morningside, mate.
I reckon this will be a ripper, actually. Like Morningside, obviously, they've gone through a rebuilding stage over the last couple of years. They've still got a few old heads there, which is terrific. But the kids have come through really nicely, and with their losses they've had in the way of player personnel, they've filled them up really, really well, and they get, the reserve grades flying on top as well. And Aspley, well, they were the big improvers this year. They obviously a very wealthy club and got the ability to buy the players that are available, but you just don't underestimate Morningside. Morningside of the side, regardless of the situation, can give their all, regardless of how they're standing on the ladder. So I'd probably go for what you think a bit of an upset here, and I'd go for Morningside.
Nice. And the final match of the round, Mount Gravatt up against Broadbeach tomorrow afternoon, 1:30pm at Mount Gravatt.
Yeah, Mount Gravatt, really, really in a bit of a spot. They're sitting at the bottom of the ladder. It's an opportunity for them, because I think at this stage Broadbeach are third last. But they've also stopped the hard times of exiting of the players. So they're going to go through a stage of rebuilding for a couple of years. Whether they're up to it at the moment, like they played very well against a couple of weeks back. So if they can hold that form, they'll be really competitive. But I think Broadbeach in a close one.
That's it. And Redlands, of course, getting the bye this week. We take a look at the ladder after 10 rounds. The Brisbane Lions on top, unbeaten, followed up by Southport Sharks. And we got Aspley, Gold Coast Suns, Morningside, NT Thunder, Redlands, Broadbeach, Labrador, and Mount Gravatt. There, that is the NEFL for now. There's 14 minutes past 9 here on 101 FM. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Ethan James with you. Craig Crowley from the Southport Sharks and the AFL Queensland Hall of Fame is on the phone with us. It's now time to talk through the AFL. They're into round 10 as well. One game so far played. This was last night. Collingwood, big win over the Brisbane Lions, 14-16, 100 over the Lions, 7-9, 51. We said it at the top of the show, Craig. Darren talked about pressure on Michael Voss as coach of that side. What sort of pressure is he under? Like, the job is sort of been the last few years, whispers come up if they go through a couple of losing run about his job security. What are your thoughts on Michael Voss as the captain, as the coach of that side?
Look, obviously it's all external pressure, but I think internally, I think they're reasonably solid. The thing about it is, look, the club, we can talk rebuilding and all that stuff. A lot of these kids have played, close to 50 games now, and they've got a lot of experience. They just seem to have hit a very big injury snag at the moment. They've got some significant players that have actually that are out through injury. I think Leuenberger being the most significant of that one. You got Daniel Merritt, who's their key back, who was out through suspension. They're just excuse me. They're just a little bit skinny in their list at the moment. Probably in saying that, after they won the premiership in our competition, you'd like to think they've got some players that could come up, but they just haven't shown their wares at the moment. So, look, after the finish they had to the season last year and they had significant wins, I think everyone, and I was one included, had Brisbane as probably the big improvers, and they probably haven't shown that. And the worst thing about it, which compounds a lot of this, is the Brisbane support base. I wouldn't say they're fickle, that's probably a harsh word, but they always like winners, and it just shows on the crowd factor too. When they're not winning, it does hurt their membership base, it does hurt their the supporters at the game. So that's one big thing that the club would be looking at. But the legend is probably the clientele they've got. Jonathan Brown probably getting close, even though he's a very, very good player, getting close to the end of his career, and the onus that's put on him to play well week in, week out is probably starting to wear on him. Hence he got suspended. So at the end of that, I wouldn't say there would be a tremendous amount of pressure on him, but it is definitely there.
Craig, do you think he would have lasted as long as he has now if he wasn't a legend of the club?
Well, yes, I think he would have. Look, I think he knows the game. You've got to remember not the expectation, but when he played, the amount of players that he had around him, the Luke Howes, the Niles Lappins, the Sean Hart, Akamalis, Mel Michael, Justin Leppich. like you look into it deep, they had some tremendous football. Alistair Lynch, is another one. They had some tremendous footballers, and and if you look back and try to analyse the two sides, that Lee Hanatscheck had and what Michael Ross has got at the moment, it's chalk and cheese. It's not even in the ballpark. So for the young list that he's got, I think he's trying to get as much as he possibly can out of them. And I don't think in this day and age, Darren, that who you are really matters a hell of a lot. You've still got to be able to perform, which he's not doing at the moment.
Yeah.
But you just don't know where they're going to go from here.
Look, we'll scoot through tips for the rest of round 10 now. First up, Craig, at Etihad Stadium this afternoon, 1:45 p.m. Carlton up against the GWS Giants.
Oh, look, they're improving all the time. They really are manly about their job, the GWS, and they stick to their format, and their kids, they're eager. But I think Carlton will just be too good. More experienced heads.
Fair enough. Amy Stadium this afternoon as well. Darren, this is 2:10 Eastern Standard Time. Adelaide Crows up against the Freo Dockers. This one's shaping up as a really good game.
It is, and Adelaide have sort of been throwing my tips out the window the last few weeks. I mean, I've been wondering how they've been doing it without the massive firepower that they've lost, but they have been playing. They've been playing rather well up to a certain point. But I'm actually tipping the Freo Dockers on this one. I think they're better this year than they've been in the past when they have been tipped to do well, if that makes any sense. Yeah. They've always disappointed. This year so far, they're sitting at 4th spot. They're not disappointing.
That's it. Craig, the big match of the round, the Sydney Swans up against Essendon. That will be at the SCG, 4:40 p.m. this afternoon.
Yeah, one turmoil club after another turmoil club,
yes.
Isn't it? Really, obviously the situation that's happened over the last couple of weeks will be very interesting, or couple of days, I suppose. It'll be interesting if Adam Goods will play. There is talk that he mightn't, but he has been named in the side. How that affects one group, how it affects the other group, don't know. If you're going on without anything happening, I would say probably the Swans are a more complete side at the moment, but you don't know how emotionally it hurts, it takes the side, and you'll know that Essendon will be ready. They'll be drilled, that this might be an emotional game for them, so they'll be out with all their guns a-blazing. But I would suggest at this stage the Swans will be too good.
Fair enough. Darren, the Geelong Cats take on the Gold Coast Suns. Simmons Stadium, 7:40 p.m. tonight. The Suns have shown plenty of improvement this year. Can they pull up a massive upset against the Geelong side?
If the game went for an hour, absolutely. The Gold Coast Suns have played some games this year up to half time, sometimes even three-quarter time, that have shocked. And but really, they're up against too much class in Geelong, and it's not a matter of It's not a matter of whether they'll win; it's by how many goals.
Craig, you were about to say something there. Sorry.
No, I was just saying it's the first game at Skilled Park under lights, isn't it? It'll be interesting to see what sort of turnout they get there. They were talking about the new stadium that's been being built there, or the grandstands that are being built. It'll be a real spectacle down there. It's something probably. It might be a little bit hard on Geelong. They might be overwrought. You might see something out of it, but I'm with Darren. I don't think we can change things.
No, there'll be a big crowd there for Geelong in that game, a big game for them. It's hard to see them not winning that game. The next game, this is also tonight. This will be at 7:40 our time. This will be down where you're playing, Craig, TIO Stadium in Darwin. Yeah. Western Bulldogs up against the Port Power.
Yeah, it's there's. I was reading the paper. It was good to see Brett Goods coming back to the area to play in a game up here. And I think, look, there's a good touch of Indigenous players on both sides, and I think that's a real good feel. And look, Port play here on a regular basis. They do quite well up here, so it's going to be interesting. But in that regard, Bully's got a win up last week, and I think it looked better than what it was. I don't see him being strong enough to beat the Port.
Fair enough. Darren, the Melbourne Demons up against the Hawthorn Hawks. This will be another real tough one, this one at the MCG tomorrow afternoon, 3:20 p.m.
Yeah, 1v17. Yes. Yeah, no spin can be put on this. It's last 5 matches, Hawthorn have won. Last 5 matches, Melbourne have lost. How fit is our good mate Buddy? I'd love to know how many goals he's going to kick tomorrow. I think that's for me. That's the interest in the game. I mean, it's to see whether somebody can kick a big bag.
Yeah. You'd have to think that one's not going to be pretty, that game tomorrow afternoon. Another one tomorrow, the North Melbourne Kangaroos up against St Kilda. Craig, 4:40 p.m. at Etihad Stadium tomorrow afternoon.
Well, any betting man would be all over North Melbourne because of the form they're showing for 3 quarters. But the unknown is, how can they lose this one? They seem to do it quite well in the last couple of weeks. You know, if they've won them games, I think by under a goal, that I think there's 3 at this stage. They win them games, they put themselves in a very healthy position on the ladder. But because they can't do that, and that's a bad mental application that they can't, finish the games off, puts them in a very, very weird position for the players themselves. They're probably second-guessing themselves. St Kilda will be hurt from last week. That's probably a game they thought they should have won. So they'll need to bounce back hard. But I think, they'll get a fairly good tongue lashing from Scott, and I think you'll find that the Kangaroos will come out stronger and they'll actually go on this week and really clinch the game.
That's it. And Darren, the final match of the round, 7:40 p.m. Monday, Queensland time, over at Patterson Stadium, the West Coast Eagles up against your Richmond Tigers.
Yeah, look, I think this is actually going to be a good match. I mean, in the past, you might sit there and say, how much are Richmond going to lose by? But if you take a look, the last 5 matches, honours are even. There haven't really been any close matches. They've been fair margins each time, but Richmond over the last 5 matches have won 3 out of the last 5 against the West Coast Eagles. But look, obviously my head over there at home at Subiaco would say the West Coast Eagles, and my heart has got to stay with the Tigers, but I'm not tipping blindly as I would be in previous years. I think they're capable of taking them.
That's it. We'll leave it all there. Craig Crowley, best of luck this afternoon over there in Darwin. Thank you very much for being with us once again here on SportzScene.
It was a pleasure again.
Absolutely, mate. Thanks. Bye. Great to have you. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk through the French Open with the tennis over there at Roland Garros. So stay with us on SportzScene.
101 FM.
You're listening to Saturday Sports Scene on 101 FM.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. It's 26 minutes past 9 here on your station. If you want to get in contact with Sports Scene on social media, we're all over the place. Facebook.com/SportsScene, SportzScene, and YouTube.com/SportsScene, SportzScene. Also on Twitter at SportsScene. So get in contact with us. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Ethan James, all here with you. It's now time to talk some French Open, and Darren Madigan, not a huge amount of Aussie success during the first week, but there were some highlights. A couple of people getting through to the second round. Leighton, unfortunately, going down in the first round in a 5-setter.
Yeah, it was good to see Leighton playing well. I mean, it went down. The comeback in the 5th set was huge. Yeah, look, he's in the absolute twilight of his career. I tend to look at this time of the year with Leighton on clay as just an idea to see where the fitness is, how he's going. He moves onto grass, gets through that, because the North American hard court season is where Leighton is usually at. Tournaments like Toronto, Montreal, Cincinnati, on the way into the US Open, that's where we worry about Leighton. And I tell you what, the other players on tour still worry about him as well. If he gets fit, he's capable of giant killing performances on hard courts. On clay, yeah, disappointed to see him go out first round, but at least he went out with a big old bang, didn't he? I mean, it was a fantastic performance, taking him to 5 sets, and it was a big 5th set too. That comeback was huge.
Yeah, and a few young Aussies though showed their wares. Like Nick Kyrgios in his first Grand Slam in the men's draw, and also Ash Barty both got through to the second round. So some promising signs there from two young Aussies, Darren. Yeah,
there is. And look, I guess the thing at the moment is, I mean, I get, like probably you do too, Ethan, I get from every state, there's a newsletter sent out by the Tennis Association every few weeks or so, and we take a look at some of the people who are supposed to be coming through and all that sort of stuff. I still worry about our depth. I hope Ash moves into that. It's harder with the girls a lot of the time than it is with the boys because of the development of their bodies and things like that. Sometimes these girls can come through. I mean, I can tell you that 5-6 years ago, I never would have picked Sam to be a top 10 singles player. I thought she was going to make her career like the Woodbridge and the Woodies making their career in doubles. She was certainly number one doubles player in the world, along with Lisa Raymond at the time. I never would have picked her to take her game the way she did. She got terribly ill, and look where she is now. So, it's harder to pick with the girls. I hope Ash is obviously our pick at the moment, because Casey seems to be always injured, and I wonder whether Casey's career is really at a crossroads on that front. As far as the guys go, we always seem to get some powerful young men coming through, and I'm interested in, I haven't got his name in front of me. It started with K during the week, but he got through to the second round, Ethan.
Kyrgios.
I mean, he's one that came out of the blue for me, and I'm really, really happy. But the French Open can do that too. I mean, it's a slower court. Guys that don't mind rallying, they can play their shots, and they're not afraid to go for their shots, can tend to come through at Roland Garros, and then sometimes we never hear of them again. But I hope that's not the case with Kyrgios, because he looked like a likely type. He's said publicly he's going to go and hit the weights. So that's always a good sign of a guy who's got a bit of work ethic about him, and we'd like to see some of our young players have work ethic, wouldn't we?
That's the big thing. Sorry to jump in there, but I think his attitude's been fantastic, and amongst other things, and thankful and everything along the way. And he is the number one junior in the world at the moment, and he also won the Aussie Open Junior Championship in January early in the year. So he's definitely got the talent. But as we sometimes say, it doesn't always translate. Junior success doesn't always translate to success on the ATP Tour. But I mean, I think he's definitely heading in the right direction.
Fingers crossed you can translate it to the ATP Tour, because we need more top Aussie players. Look, Darren, we'll go through, take a look at the women's side of the draw first, if you like. All the top seeds seem to be going through okay. Are there any picks for you after the first week of the tournament?
Look, as per usual, it's Captain Obvious time. Most of the usuals are going through. Serena's lost 6 games in 2 matches. I mean, that's it. Svetlana Kuznetsova tends to play well here, so we'll see how she's going through. I mean, she's getting on in her career. Angelique Kerber is her next outing. Radwanska and Ivanovic, I think that should be actually a very good match, but once again, whoever wins that will go through to play Irani in the top of the draw. In the bottom of the draw, we have Bartoli playing Schiavone. We know what Schiavone can do at this tournament. Bartoli doesn't seem to get it together in front of her home crowd, as well as a lot of the French players don't, unfortunately. Mind you, we can't talk in Australia, can we? Elise Cornet playing Victoria Azarenka. I'm picking Vicky to continue through to the quarterfinals on that one. I think Vicky's going to end up meeting Sharapova, frankly. I think the only person who's probably going to cause trouble there is Sam. If Sam has really got her serve on it seems she's serving well at the moment. And her serve works really well at Roland Garros, and part of the reason for that, I talked last week about her racket, her strings and things like that. She gets an enormous amount of overspin as well as side spin on the ball, and on the Roland Garros court, compared to just about anywhere else, the ball bites. And she really can do amazing things with her. She's not the fastest serve in the world, but she can make the ball do more than just about anybody else on tour. That's why she causes so much trouble. And I think that her, when she comes up, if she gets through, she beats Jankovic. She's got Kvitova after that, and also a previous Grand Slam champion, and then would have to come up against Sharapova in the semi-finals. So, at the moment, Stosur, Sharapova, and Serena for me.
Fair enough. We'll look to the men's side of the draw now, Ethan. Who do you like on that side? Of course, the big 3 guys all still there. Murray missing this tournament, but any other guys standing out for you so far?
As Darren said, it's essentially Captain Obvious time for the French Open, really, in terms of the big 3 and the men getting through. Nadal has probably been a bit shaky. I think he's dropped a set in each of his matches, but he always sort of finds a way to get through. But in terms of he might be tested against some of the high quality players there. One match that I think is coming up could be really interesting is Djokovic and Grigor Dimitrov, which I think is either today or tomorrow. Not quite sure there. But yeah, Dimitrov can play some really good tennis on clay and on all surfaces. So I reckon he'll give Djokovic a really good run for his money. I reckon it'll be a good match.
Absolutely, but Darren, at the same time, you've got to think it'll come down to those guys, Djokovic and Nadal on that side of the draw, and then possibly come up against Federer in the final. Yeah, look, I think so. If we're looking at the thing about Nadal is he's been losing sets all season.
even in best of 3 matches, which is the majority of what they play, he has been losing sets but getting through. I agree. He looks dodgy at times, but he has that way of coming back. So you just cannot count him out. Nishikori's had a good run, but he's one of those giant killers who'll get 2 or 3 rounds in and then he's gone. Wawrinka, you never know with Wawrinka. He can go through. If he wins this next match, which I think he will against Janowicz, he's going to come up against either Davydenko or Richard Gasquet. And Gasquet's great on the faster surfaces, that wonderful, beautiful backhand of his. But Davydenko is very experienced on clay, and he's capable of anything, even in the twilight of his career. So I think at the moment, Wawrinka or Davydenko up against Nadal coming into the quarterfinals, then Nadal getting through, and Nadal to play Djokovic in a semi-final. I really don't want to pick between them two. And I think Federer, it's going to be a tough game against Gilles Simon, but I think he'll take him. He's got Songer after that, probably, if Songer gets past Troicki in the bottom half of the draw. And at the top half of the bottom half of the draw, you've got Tommy Robredo and David Ferrer are probably the 2 main names there. And I think you'll find that Federer will probably be playing Ferrer in a semi-final at the bottom of the draw. But I think Ferrer's still a little whiles away from winning a Grand Slam tournament, yet he's probably the one player on tour in that top 4 or 5 who, really he hasn't quite reached his potential yet. So I think Federer against either Djokovic or Nadal in the final.
That's it. Look, we'll go to a break there. We'll leave the French Open for now. Big second week coming up over there at Roland Garros. We'll keep you up to date with it next week. We'll go to a break. When we come back, we've got Megan Rooney, the captain of the Golden South Jags, former Firebird herself. She'll be on the phone, talk us through the world of netball. So stay with us on 101 FM.
Do you have a street light that's not functioning correctly outside your property? Perhaps you've noticed a floodlight over a zebra crossing that's not operating. Well, Energex would like you to report it to them by calling 13 12 53 or completing an online form for faulty street lights on their website at energex.com.au. Remember also that the council has to pay the running cost of all the streetlights, whether they're working or not. So let's get the most for our rateable dollar by reporting the streetlights not functioning to Energex on 13 12 53 or on their website energex.com.au.
Here on 101 FM. It is 23 minutes to 10. Your next fresh news update coming up at the top of the hour. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan and Ethan James all here with you. Joining us on the phone, she is the current captain of the Golden South Jags, former Firebird herself. Megan Rooney, welcome to SportzScene. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks very much, Kevin. Glad to be here.
G'day, Megs. Great to have you on the show once again. It's been a while. But how are things going with the Jags at the moment? You're sitting 4th on the ladder.
Yeah, we're having a pretty good year this year, Darren. It's been we've got a great team this year, really fantastic bunch of girls, and a really talented group, especially a lot of talented young players coming through. So we've got a really nice mix, I guess, of old ducks like myself with a little bit of experience, and then the young talent who are very passionate netballers coming through. So we've been building really nicely over the year. We've still got very high hopes for the season. We play Tigers tonight, big game. So hoping to cause a little upset there and push ourselves further up the ladder. But yeah, it's been a really enjoyable and very positive season for us for sure this year.
It's a tough couple of weeks for you, isn't it? I mean, you've got the Tigers this week, then you've got to jump on a plane and head up to play Townsville next weekend.
Yeah, for sure. And the Townsville team, it's always a tough game up in Townsville. We always talk about when you go up there, it's like having 8 players on the court almost for that team. They seem to rise to the occasion, and it's always a really good tussle up there. So, yeah, we've got 2 tough games ahead, that's for sure.
Fantastic. Well, the old duck can't be going too bad. You have been named in the Queensland Fusion side for what must be the 18th time. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, no, I was very surprised. I threw my hat in the ring, hoping that they might consider me again just for one more year. And, I was lucky enough to get the call up, so I'm very excited.
Do you know who your teammates are? Because I can't find the side on the website, that's all. Do you know who your teammates are yet?
He's announced it yet, but no, there's a same sort of thing, I guess, with the Fusion team. There's some up-and-coming girls in there, so like the Emma Tickner, Beryl Friday, a few others. God, I'm stumped now. But there's some few really young, up-and-coming, talented players coming through, and then there's some older players like Kerry Barr from Tigers and myself, and Jackie Russell, former Firebird, Laura Sherian, Sally Butters, so a few older players like that, I guess, as well. So, yeah, good mix in the team.
Also, we'll obviously be talking a lot more about the Australian Netball League as we get closer to it, and we'll have a chat with you a bit more about that. But as far as the Queensland Champions Cup is concerned at the moment, I mean, the Jags, if we take a look at the core side, the one that has done so well at times down through the years, with Michelle Hess up the front, you up the back. You've got a great sparring partner there these days, with a partner in crime, with Jade Fiscalini in defence. And Lisa Spencer's gone now, but you've got Lee Thomas in the middle. I mean, the core of the side is still there, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, and we were made me very nervous when Lise left. She was a huge part of our team, and still will be. She's integral part of the Jags. So it was a big loss to lose her. But I guess the really pleasing thing is the young girls have really stepped up in her absence and really seen as an opportunity to get some solid court time and be the leaders, I guess, in that centre role, and they've really done that. And Lee as well. She's stepped into the vice captain role and really led those young girls in the centre. So, yeah, I guess we're lucky we've got a bit of depth there. So, but, we still definitely miss Lise. It'd be great to have her back whenever she decides to return to the Gold Coast.
We've always looked at the Golden South Jags as being the team as the best of the rest after the Tigers and the Cougars with their dominance. Suncoast Link have moved into second spot so far this season. What do you guys need to do to take that next step up to break that dominance that the Suncoast Links obviously have now?
Yeah, something we've spoken about at training. So Gold Coast, especially down our attack end, they've got a lot of flair, I guess, as players. They've got good hands, they're athletic, they can move the ball, that sort of thing. The thing that we're trying to add to our game is, I guess, a little bit more discipline in our work off the ball, and making sure that we're doing the basics right all the time rather than trying to play the low percentage play, I guess. So looking for high percentage play in our game, so that way we keep possession and can push through to make sure we convert our turnovers and all that sort of stuff. So it's just little parts of our game, I guess, that we're really focusing on, because that's what those, the Tigers, Cougars teams, that's what they do. They when they get the ball, they cherish it and they make sure they put it through the hoop. And sometimes we rely on our flair a little bit too much rather than doing the basics. So, yeah, I think that's been a big focus for us this year.
Fair enough. Okay, you got the big one tonight, 7 o'clock, State Netball Centre, Clump Road, Mount Gravatt. You got the Tigers. You reckon you can take them? And why?
Absolutely, yes. We lost by 2, I think, or 1 in the first round to Tigers, and I truly believe we're a totally different team now. We've improved so much, we've got better combinations, so I'd be very disappointed if we walk away with the loss tonight.
All right. Steel Cats have got the Logan Wildcats up in town, so what's your tip there?
Ooh, I think that'll be an interesting game. I'd probably go Steel Cats, though, I think.
All right, and Brisbane West Lions have the Cougars at the State Netball Centre on the other court, same time as you tonight.
Yeah, I'd definitely go Cougars for that game, I think.
Okay, fair enough. Now, your old teammates, the Firebirds, they went down in OT last week by 3 goals against the Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic. This is massive this weekend. 2:10 tomorrow afternoon. They've got the Melbourne Vixens, Sherelle McMahon's Melbourne Vixens. What are you feeling about that match?
Yeah, I think, God, I wish I could watch it. I don't have Foxtel at home or SBS, unfortunately, which is a real shame, but it'll be a brilliant game to start off with. I really think it could swing either way, but I think the Firebirds will take it. I think they've got the self-belief at the moment to take it, and I think the Vixens do have some excellent players in there, but I know I've just got a good feeling about it for the Birds. So, and having Gaitzi back in the ranks is fantastic. So I think they'll power. They'll be determined to win that one after the loss this week.
All right, your teammate last year, Gretel Tippett, who made the switch across from the WNBL Logan Thunder, she's been sitting on the bench for the last week. Do you reckon she'll get a shot?
Oh, I'm not sure. Chelsea Pittman, she's back in, isn't she?
I'm not sure whether she's back from injury or not, so they haven't been talking much on the website about it.
Sure. Well, God, I'd love to see her get out on court. I definitely think she's got the goods to make that next step to the Firebirds, that's for sure. It's just about giving her opportunity, I guess. But, yeah, she's definitely a hugely talented player, like athletic, She can read the play. She understands the game. So, it's all very raw. I guess she's only been playing at a high level for 18 months, and the progress she's made has been incredible. So, give a girl a go, I say. See what she can do.
You've seen a lot come and go. Do you reckon she's made the switch successfully?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. Yeah, definit's Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and we all have a lot to learn still. Like everyone that plays, you learn something every day, and you grow every time you go out on the court. So she's still got a lot to learn. But where she's at already with and the volume that she still has to go to improve, she's going to be outstanding in the coming years.
Fantastic. And look, finally, you played against the Papua New Guinea national side during the week, the Pepes in Brisbane. How'd you go?
Yeah, that was a great fun game. Yeah, it was really great.
Who won?
They're a nice little team, so lots of speed in their team, and it was really interesting to come up against that different style of play, I guess, and some familiar faces in there with Mileta Roberts and Tiara Baldwin, two Queensland girls. So it was great to get out there and have a good tussle against a team like that.
Sensational. Other ANZ games this weekend: New South Wales Swifts are at home to the Adelaide Thunderbirds. The Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic are at home to the Southern Steel. West Coast Fever and Northern Mystics have to bye, and the Tactics are at home to the Central Pulse at the Canterbury Arena. Megan, thank you so much for joining us this week, and we'll catch up with you again soon, especially as we get close to the Australian Netball League season.
Great. Thanks for having me, Darren. Great to catch up.
It's great to have you on the show, Megan. Welcome back anytime. We'll take a break here on Sports Scene. When we come back, we'll talk some motorsport. We'll get Lee Hanatscheck on the phone to talk us through the world of motorsport. So stay with us on 101 FM. Sports Scene here on 101 FM. It's 12 minutes to 10. An X-Fresh News update coming up at the top of the hour. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Ethan James, all here with you. And joining us on the phone from the Australian Karting Association, Sports Scene regular, Mr. Lee Hanatscheck. Lee, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Kev. Great to be with you on the phone.
It's great to have you again, as always, mate. A big week coming up next week at Ipswich with the Winter Nationals going on. Let's tell us about that.
Yeah, the Fuchs Winter Nationals, which is the largest drag racing event outside of North America, will be the 4-day event. We had it at Ipswich's Wellerbank Raceway. Everything from the super sedans right through to the top fuelers will be in action. A lot of local drivers will be behind the wheel out there, racing, as said, all across the 4 days of activity. It's even if you're not a drag racing fan, I can assure you that the sight of two top fuelers going side by side down the quarter mile, there is nothing greater in motorsport. I've stood in between them on a start line, and your eyes water, your body shakes. It's just an amazing sight. And so if you can get out there to see the best of the drag racing from all across not only Australia, but a few Americans are over here competing next weekend at Ipswich's Willowbank Dragway. It's the Fuchs Winter Nationals.
And as you mentioned there, mate, like with the race of them side by side all the way up, it reminded me of some great footage I saw last week. I think it was the warm-up race to the Indianapolis 500, where there was four Indy cars right at the checkered flag, going wheel to wheel. It was unbelievable stuff. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I did actually catch that. I didn't quite catch it live. I'd seen some photos online, and then they had the replay a couple of hours later, and I sort of watched the race while I was doing some things around the house, and
insane.
It was closest ever finish. I think it was 0.043 of a second covering 4 cars. It was an amazing sight. It was the Indy Light Series, basically, is what it's called. It's the tier below the main game Indy cars, and they came out of the final corner. They were 2 wide, and then they went 3 wide, and then. And the guy in fourth basically went to the outside and won by, you'd effectively say, 10 millimetres.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And he had not led the lap at all during the race, 40-lap race. Mm-hmm. That was the only time he led as they crossed the finish line.
That's all that counts. That's all that matters.
Exactly. Just ask Tony Kanaan.
Darren, it was a massive weekend last week in international racing. What did you think of the whole thing? Start with Indianapolis.
Well, yeah, it was crazy. I remember sending Lee texts on Sunday night. How do I get to watch the Indy 500? How do I get to watch the Indy 500? Up here, I didn't have any pay TV, and trying to find every thing. So I'm sitting there watching timing sheets while I'm watching other sport. It was the other thing too. There was football on as well, as it's in soccer during the night too, in between. So no, I don't think anybody got any sleep before Monday. So bosses, if your people turned up with bleary eyes on Monday, tough. But in all seriousness, it was just an amazing weekend. I don't think that there could have been a more popular win on the grid than Tony Kanaan winning. I mean, he's a popular driver, and to actually see him come through and finally win that race that he's made no secret that he's wanted to win for so long, I think it was great to see. Would you concur with that, Lee?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Tony Kanaan's one of the most likeable characters in IndyCar. He's the most popular, as you say. He's come so close so many times over the last few years, and he was also one of those drivers who was very close to Dan Weldon as well. So it's ironic when you look at the drivers that have won the Indianapolis after Dan Weldon won it, then he sort of passed on in that terrible accident. You know, those drivers who have now won the race, who tried so hard to emulate his feats, and now they've done so. But Tony Kanaan, right place, right time. He said to his crew in the final caution period with 6 laps to go, "It's all or nothing, boys. I'm going for it."
Yeah,
it's either win or bust. And he took the lead on the restart, and shortly after the caution flag come out, and therefore he won.
Well,
great result for Tony Kanaan, and not only Tony Kanaan, but also Jimmy Vasser and Kevin McCowan, who have backed that team for so many years to get them to where they are, and for a breakthrough win for them. Of course, Kevin Kalkoven, expat Kiwi, and Jimmy Vasser, and well known to the long-term motorsport fans here on the Gold Coast as well for the IndyCars. Great to see TK get the win.
All right, and Tony Kanaan, as we've mentioned, won from Carlos Munoz. Ryan Hunter-Ray came third. Marco Andretti came fourth, which I think gets him the lead in the championship now. They back up this week too, by the way. And Justin Wilson, friend of this program, been on it before, came fifth. Elio Castroneves sixth. Best placed Australian, Ryan Briscoe 12th, which also managed to get him a seat for the rest of the season by the looks of things, driving for Panther. Scott Dixon came 14th, and Will Power came 19th as well after leading for 16 laps of the race. We had the Coca-Cola 600 last weekend, 2 red flags, 11 cautions, and some insane stuff going on around the place. During the race, we had a situation where one of the television cameras actually came down on the leader at the time, which I think was one of the Bush brothers, Kurt, or I think it was Kurt actually.
It was Kyle.
Was it Kyle?
One of the cables that hold one of the fly cams had broken. Came down, damaged his car, and also Marcus Ambrose's car. It's in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Charlotte, and it was just amazing. I had on the cheap, Darren. I actually watched Monaco. Got some sleep, got up early to watch the last 40 or 50 laps of Indianapolis, and then watch the 600. So I sort of done that on the cheap in the middle. But the race from Charlotte, basically it started, I got down to the office at 8 o'clock or something like that, and I turned it on, and it just started.
Finished mid-afternoon.
And it sort of 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
It was a crazy, but that it's interesting though, that cable sliced the front quarter panel on the driver's side of Bush's car open like a hot knife through butter. So it just goes to show you what can happen. But this is one time NASCAR got it right. Red flagged the race, got the guys down. They agreed to let everybody fix their cars. They even gave Ambrose a brake test out on the track, and basically it was a case, once that was all done, we were back running again, and eventually the winner was Kevin Harvick from Casey Kane and Kurt Busch, Denny Hamlin fourth, and Marcus Ambrose, after all of that, and this was a great performance to come through into the top 10 in the end, and he ended up coming 10th. That leaves him standing at the moment 22nd in the standings. This weekend we're on a 1 mile oval at the moment. I've just got practice figures figures at the moment. I don't think they've had qualifying yet. But Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch. And at the moment, we're looking at Marcus Ambrose down in 30th in first practice there at the moment. Can tell you, Indy cars are also backing up this week. They're in Detroit and on pole for the race in Detroit tonight will be Dario Franchitti from EJ Vizzo and Mike Conway. So that's sort of...
I'll chuck a breaking news in there for you, Darren. That Dario does actually get a penalty for a changing of engines at Indianapolis, so he gets a 10-place penalty, which leaves EJ Vizzo, who will start on pole position.
In Detroit too. There's not much room to pass there.
Yeah. You missed something, Darren. There was another race that kicked off the marathon last weekend.
Yes, I'm just about to go to it, actually. The Monaco Grand Prix. And what a popular win. Nico Rosberg, 30 years after his dad. It's still under a cloud at the moment because Mercedes did a tyre test with Pirelli after the Barcelona race, and that is going to go to a Motorsport Council hearing. But what a popular win, Lee. I mean, 30 years after his dad did it, and weren't they happy?
Yeah, it was a great win. So there's a bit of controversy over the win, but somehow I don't think the FI, what they're saying is basically Mercedes were basically contracted by Pirelli to do a tyre test. The tyre test was said to go in layman's terms. It was said to go in one way with the different cars. They used their race cars. The FIA knew they were going to do the test, but they didn't realise that basically Mercedes going, well, we told you we're going to use our current cars. FIA going, well, no, you didn't tell us you were going to use those cars.
Yeah.
In long story short, that the Mercedes have been called before the FIA governing body of the sport, basically because of a couple of teams have put in a protest against it. So I don't think it'll affect the outcome of the Grand Prix itself. I believe it will if they have done something wrong, it will be a monetary fine.
Yeah, and I hope they don't. I mean, the FIA have asked Pirelli for a thorough document and dossier ahead of the International Tribunal, but it was just so wonderful to see Rosberg get up. And it's funny, I didn't see Dad anywhere in the coverage. Keke has never been one to be shy, but I thought he might have been there at Monaco giving his boy a hug straight after the race, but that wasn't to be. Having said that, Nico is very, very much, we saw in the press conference, very much about his own career.
Yes. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So,
it's certainly going well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we shouldn't forget, too, that Vettel, I think, was second and Mark Webber was third. And boy, does Mark love Monaco. Podium finishes a number of times over the last 5-6 years, including winning it twice as well. But we should mention, too, that on Thursday, Williams announced that from 2014 they will be racing with Mercedes engines with this new formula. After they were linked with Renault. So, there's all sorts of fun and games going on in Formula One at the moment.
And just as we wrap up there, boys, I just want to go off motorsport for a minute and just say, how good were the Crows last week coming back for the 1-point victory?
So what's your sure thing?
I had to get it in.
That's it. Look, you did. You just squeezed it in too, because we are out of time here on Sports Scene. The news is coming up in a matter of seconds here. Darren Madigan, thank you very much for being with us again this week.
Thank you. Bayern Munich to beat Stuttgart tonight.
I love it. Ethan James, thank you very much again.
No worries, Kev. No worries.
That's it. Lee, thank you very much for being on the phone with us today.
Thanks, guys. I'll hopefully be in the studio with you next week.
Fingers crossed. I'm Kevin Braysher. Thanks for listening. My short tip, Queensland will win next week by 8. Stay with us on 101 FM. It's time for the news.